Good morning, YouTubers, Rumble, Facebook. You'll be going out there today. This is News with a View, hosted by me, John A. Costa. Today is September 26, 2025, episode 134. Comey gets indicted. That's going to be the main thrust of today. And really, we knew this was all coming. He probably gave false information or I hate to say false information because I don't know what information he gave. But he did give probably misleading information. And that's making a false claim to a federal agent. And can't say I'm not happy about it, because I am happy about it. I think there should be more. They were all traitors who set up a person to be jailed with false information. And they talk about dictators. The paid Russian report, which then allowed the opening of investigations, which everything from that report, anything that touched that report should have been the fruit of the poison tree. And that is just something of the Obama administration and Biden. They were all crooks. And they'll get theirs. But through our legal system. Not from a rooftop like the way Democrats do it. We'll use the legal system. Just like Trump used the legal system to exonerate himself. Against criminal charges. Now, yes, he was convicted in New York. Felony charges, which will be reversed. I have no doubts in my mind about that. They can go and retry him again. And is Trump using political pushback? Is he using not only the bully pulpit, but is he using the government to do his bidding for him? And that's a fair question to ask. I don't mind people coming and, asking that question and going, well, what do you think about that? Are you doing that? Here's the thing with that. If you break the law, you break the law. Now, sometimes people are given a walk. Comey gave Hillary Clinton a walk with her emails. And it all depends on, what does it amount to? If you ask Martha Stewart, who did nothing wrong, yet they said she was trying to mislead federal agents, well, she went to jail. She was a convicted felon who was pardoned. So there are consequences, and there are remedies to it, but there are consequences. I think Comey wants to be a martyr anyway. Such a stupid man. And I can understand him being resistant to feeling that he had to take an oath to Trump, where, Trump said, I want your loyalty. Well, Trump's first term, he was a little naive with that. You weren't talking about company employees. You were talking about public officials who their their loyalty has to be to their job and to the rules and guidelines of that job above anything else. I think Trump understands that, but then, he goes, I want to know I can trust you. No one had worked with Trump before. So the idea of you're going to give your, 50 years of service or whatever, Comey, 20 years, 30 years of service to someone that, I have no idea if I can trust this individual. That's asking a lot. So I could feel that Comey felt uncomfortable in the meeting with Trump, mostly when he had the room empty and he goes, I just want to talk to you, because a lawyer always wants to go on the record. And in that case, you're talking to the highest guy in the land, and I might want the Attorney General to be sitting there and advising Trump not to say something, But again, the Attorney General does not represent, in essence, Trump. But I'm sure Comey would have felt a lot better having, some type of other person in there to act as a legal chaperone. It was probably very unfamiliar for Comey to be sitting with the president alone and then having a conversation about loyalty. So I can understand Comey's apprehension of dealing with Trump. That's, you're talking politics here. You're not talking, too many rules. But Comey making a false claim to a federal agent and obstruction of justice. And, you look back at, what was the history with Comey and Trump. And in July of 2016, he made, Comey made no recommendations for charges be brought against Hillary Clinton over her handling of classified information. That was the server incident. Trump was running for office against Mrs. Clinton, and he, Trump said, hey, the system is rigged. She got a free pass. And then in October, Comey told Congress that the FBI was investigating a batch of emails related to Mrs. Clinton that had surfaced in an unrelated case, roiling the campaign weeks before the election. Now, that was the emails that were found on Weiner's wife's phone, that Weiner's wife had saved. So, and those were emails, and those were things that, Hillary had said, no, I never sent anything out like that. I never did anything like that. And now he goes, this came up during another case, which is interesting that the people around Hillary Clinton, their phones were never looked at, or, so the investigation that Comey had done was very superficial on Hillary Clinton. And I could see why. I mean, you know, it's not something that would be, uncharacteristic of people in places of power that are sitting side by one another. And then in 2017, 2 months after Trump took office, Comey announced the FBI was investigating whether members of the president's campaign had colluded with Russia to influence the election. Now, this was the beginning of the Flynn case, and then beginning of the case against 38 other people that said that they called it the IRA, but it wasn't the Irish Republic Army, and the GRU, which was, the Russian police, had set up agents inside the United States to set up phony accounts and work with Trump supporters to help do rallies and things of that nature. And a lot of the people had no idea who these people were, but, they were pro-Trump, and they set up Facebook's account, Twitter's accounts, and, everything else. And, the FBI started to look into that. A lot of it had to do with the fake Russian dossier that Hillary Clinton had, paid for, and then the Steele report, and everything started rolling. So now Trump was fighting a whole slew of problems, and that according to Mr. Comey, Mr. Trump repeatedly put pressure on him, demanding loyalty, and asked him to clear his name publicly in the Russian inquiries. And Comey later testified to Congress that he told the president in one conversation that the investigating was proceeding as quickly as possible. Those are the type of things that would get someone like Comey, a little worried. I don't want to be pressured about this. This is something that we have to get right. And now we know that Hillary paid for that, and opened the door to investigations that really should never have happened. FISA reports that should not have happened. Days later in 2017, Trump posted on social media that Mr. Comey was the best thing that ever happened to Hillary Clinton, that he gave her a free pass from many bad deeds. Well, not saying that wasn't the case. But by May, Trump had had enough of Comey. And Trump fired Comey, saying that the agency had lost public trust, citing Mr. Comey's handling of the investigation and the Mrs. Clinton's use of private email server. Even though many observed that Trump had benefited politically from that inquiry. It wasn't the inquiry. It was the fact that in one breath he goes, I have to get it right. We have to do this, and it's going as fast as we can, but I got to do my job. And the other side is, all right, you did your job. You found that you violated it. You found all this information out. And then you go, well, I'm not going to do anything about it. So And Trump had said at one point, he said at one point he had praised Mr. Comey for his guts in his pursuit of Mrs. Clinton. Well, yeah, of course. You know, and you let you let her go. You didn't conclude it. You didn't let it end. You kept you kept it going, and then you let her go. You captured her. You did all that stuff, and you had her right where you wanted her, and then you let her go. Days after the firing, President Trump told Russian officials in the Oval Office that Mr. Comey was crazy and a real nut job. Well, you know, you'll have that. You know, Trump is known to do things like that, and that doesn't upset me. What we tell people in the Oval Office, and that doesn't bother me. There's been worse said. Then in 2017, during congressional testimony, Mr. Comey said Mr. Trump had lied to the American public when he said the FBI was in disarray and the agents had lost confidence in Mr. Comey. Those were lies, plain and simple, Comey said in his opening remarks. Loyalty, truth, and lies, and leadership. You know, those were his books. And he called Trump's presidency a forest fire that was doing serious damage to the country's name and traditions. Well, I wouldn't go there, Comey. And of course, we had at the same time, we had the veteran Peter Strzok, was that his name? The FBI agent that was sending emails and text messages back and forth to Lisa Page, another FBI agent, that they were romantically connected, but that had nothing to do with him. And, you know, who cares? I mean, who cares? They have to answer to their own family, and, you know, that becomes maybe a issue with integrity. But they were sending text messages back and forth how they had to do anything to stop Trump, to do anything to find stuff that would point towards Trump, no matter what. And in one essence, it was their job to look for things that were, you know, would need to be investigated, so no rock goes unturned. But here they were pointing at Trump. We're going to get this guy. And that kind of, during an investigation, kind of sours the milk a bit, saying that, well, the investigation has to be about facts and not about emotions and your political leanings. And this became a problem. So after hearings and everything, these two got fired because they were reporting to Comey. Now, who's next? We saw a couple months ago that there might be a special investigation on John Brennan, ex-CIA. Alejandro Mayorkas, Homeland Security. James Clapper, NSA. These are very high people that held very high positions inside prior administrations. And is this a vendetta by Trump? maybe you might call it a vendetta, where Trump is trying to clear his name and saying, yeah, I'm a lot of things. I'm not a traitor. I didn't do those things. You know, you might not want to have dealt with me as in business, but anything else, you know, I was above board. And all these people kept saying I was not, and I was a traitor, and I sold out America. And you're still hearing that. And those were from like people like Schiff, Nadler, Green, and a lot of others, Feinstein, Pelosi, and they all knew that that Russian dossier was fake. They knew it, and they were doubling down on it because they were so sure that Hillary Clinton was going to win. They were so sure. I think that there's a lot of stuff out there that still has not been uncovered. And you know, there might be reasons why, but we shall see. You know, and whether or not the case will hold water, will it be able to go further? Just because you indict someone now, you can go out and look. And if you can look, you'll find. So I think Comey has enough in the last 6 years that he has said and done, and was asked about that. He you know, he sunk his own boat. Brennan is a person that I'd like to see grabbed. I'm not so sure with Clapper, but Mayorkas is another one. There's a lot hiding there. So we'll see. We'll see. But I also feel that if there's nothing there, then it should stop and the investigation should say, hey, we looked. We could not sustain a case against him. And that's it. Over. Speaker Jeffries at a black caucus, congressional caucus, had said some very reportedly, allegedly, and you go and look for, you know, what did he say at these things, and they can't find, oh, there's no transactions or reports of what this guy said. Minority Speaker of the House of Representatives, and no one is writing down what the guy says at a black caucus meeting? I'm going to throw the bullshit card on that one. But he did say on the 25th of September, that was yesterday, that ICE is responsible for the violence against them with targeting officials who support illegals. He said, yes, both sides need to tone it down. We got to bring it down. When, you know, and he evoked Reagan and everyone else. That bringing the rhetoric down. Who brought the rhetoric up? Yeah, Jeffries. And who brought it up again by saying, no, ICE can only blame themselves for what happens to them. So if you're carrying out legal arrests and detentions and pointing out government officials who are protecting criminals, under Jeffries' comment, you should expect to be attacked. And that's what Jeffries was alluding to. So, in one side, he says, bring it down. On the other side, he cranks it up. And this is all the Democrats. And the Democrats have to be called out for this. Now, the other thing I was looking at is wins for the Trump administration from the Supreme Court. There's a bunch. Trump versus CASA. We request to limit the ability of lower courts to issue universal injunctions, which they're not following, and there's more things about that. The decision curtails a common method opponents use to temporarily block the enforcement of new administration's policies, and both sides did it. So I'm not going to say this is a democratic, both sides did it and was wrong. And this impacts birthrights, just so you know. So, expanding presidential power to remove agency heads. Now, in this one, it was interesting because the Humphreys, and I call it the probate, but it's Humphreys executor that went back to 1930. It started in 1934 and was decided in 1935 by the Supreme Court. It said that you just can't fire the officials of independent agencies without cause. And you can say, well, it's because he didn't agree with me. That's not one of the three causes. So you look it up, you find out what the three causes are. But if you don't agree with me and you're fighting me all the way, do you become effective or efficient? But when you fire them for cause, then that has to go to the Senate, and that person has the right then to go, no, I was doing everything I was supposed to do. And I thought that Trump might have always, and I said that right from the beginning, that was one of them that I said, I can't see him winning that. Just blank out, you're fired today. And I was a little surprised at that. That was one that I thought that he'd have a much more uphill battle. Of course, he won the deportation to third countries. Trump versus JGG. And that was in June. Cleared way for migrants to be deported. Of course, revoking temporary residence status in May. The Alien Enemies Act in May. Allowing the administration to remove Venezuelan nationals identified as gang members. And that goes actually a longer way to open the door to any gang member. So when that door opens, you get your foot in that door and you've opened that door, it's hard now for a lower court to say, well, that was Venezuelan and not Haitians or Mexicans or, Yugoslavians or Russians or, I don't think there's a Yugoslavia anymore, so I'll take that back. And so forth, that you can't deport them. This will become universal. What makes Venezuelan gang members different from Mexican gang members? So that then plays into Trump saying we've been invaded because we did not enforce our borders. How did these people come across here? They didn't come here legally. They either lied on their applications or we never even knew they were here. So that's an invasion. And if they're trying to take over our government, even locally, infiltrating it, bribing it, then insurrection could be at play. So it's easy to see where Trump fights some of these things, and then you start looking at, well, why is he going after this so hard? Because he's taking the dots and connecting them all, and connecting them in a way that there'll be a picture that the courts will go, we see the picture. The Constitution says you can do it. So, and other wins through emergency applications, which is the case. The presidents can always use that, meaning that they can bring something up today to the Supreme Court and go, we need a ruling on this ASAP. It's that important. The problem, I think, that the courts are starting to face, and when I say the courts, it's the Supreme Court, is that the courts aren't there to make laws or to make policy. They're there to enforce laws already made, or laws that are going to happen. People go, wait. And normally they don't get involved with that. They wait till it's passed and then they go, no, you can't do it. So. But in this, according to the Supreme Court, ruled for the Trump administration in a series of emergency rulings. It's called a shadow docket. Reduction of federal workforce, rehiring of education officials, disclosure related to DOGE, access limits for Social Security. So we have a lot of things that Trump has done where he has won in the Supreme Court. There are things that he has lost, and I will report that. I didn't want to just spend the day of doing back and forth with that. There are plenty of cases where the Supreme Court has said to the Trump administration, you can't do that. And you can't appeal the Supreme Court. You can only come at them at a different angle. But they're pretty smart cookies, all of them. And they know when you're trying to run an end game around them, and you don't want to do that because, yeah, you lost it, take it like a man. Stop your crying. Be a man. And that's what you need to do. But I will say this, and I've been saying that Trump is having some really good legal advice on constitutional law. And excuse me for this. In the last 5 days, I've been really sick. So to the point that I even sought out medication from a doctor, not Dr. John going on the internet and looking for something. I actually went to the doctor and I go, all right, doc, I'm back. I know I have an October appointment with you, but this came up, give me some magic elixir that I was promised you'd have at the 1964 World's Fair. I don't have my flying car either. Effers. But I see a lot of problems coming up for the Trump administration. It's one thing asking for and then getting it. Now, what do you do? I see the Democrats, saying they're going to blame the Republicans for, no budget or the shutdown. Trump wants nothing more than a shutdown so he could fire people. And the Democrats just don't understand Trump's. You think you're punching him into a corner? He'll get you in that corner, and he'll punch his way out. And now the Republicans said, we have a budget in place. We have something, and it was bipartisan. Now you got to just do it. And, and he goes, I'm not going to, well, he might talk to Jeffries, and he might talk to Schumer. But he's not going to give in on anything. And, the only thing the Democrats can do is saying, hey, listen, we told the president what we wanted. He said no. But I can't have people suffer because, I'm in a personal conflict with the president. So, we're gonna let the budget pass. And when it goes sideways, we're just going to remind everyone we did not want to take you down the sewer drain right now, and that if you elect Democrats, we can fix what he's doing. We can fix it. And that's what they should do. We can fix it. But I'm not going to throw you on a sacrificial pile to get there like that. So I think that would, make a lot of Democrats go, well, yeah, I get it. To the winner goes the spoils. Better luck next time. I'm going to try to keep this to about 45 minutes. I haven't seen too much more. I was waiting for another news event coming up. That's what I'm doing here right now. I don't normally like doing this in the middle of a show. But there is something that I was looking for that was going to happen that I wanted to know about. And we're going to get rid of you, and we're going to go. And let's see, what do we got? Well. All right. And, of course, the Kimmel thing is still there. And, so these are all things that are in there. Kimmel is really so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Kimmel, because you're losing a lot of markets. I think in the end, some of these stations, independents, are going to have to come back in line because that's money. So, no, I don't see what I was hoping to see. And, yeah, they said there's a book, the Bidens are coming up. And Bill Maher believes that the key to rebuilding the Democrats are Democrats from outside the party, which I have said for months. The people you have are no good. You don't have to replace them with Republicans. Just replace them with Democrats that make common sense, and you'll be fine. I'd love to see you vote for a Republican. But, You know, uh, I like the fact that Stephen Smith speaks out, and he was a sports commentator, but a very intelligent person who uses common sense. And a good idea is a good idea no matter who it comes from. And he has a good idea. You want to rebrand, start making common sense. You could be Democrat and make common sense. That strikes the people who are moderates, moderate Democrats, moderate Republicans. That's how you're going to win. You are not going to radicalize Republicans to become Democrats. And the Republicans didn't radicalize leftists to become Republicans. So, Charlie Kirk, who had grabbed these young voters, very influential, and now that is going full tilt towards, a new playing field of the Charlie Kirk movement. Democrats, man, you really made a mistake. But Stephen Smith makes sense in that he wants to have this common sense put back into the mix. That's all. Common sense. So, and there's not much other news going on. You'll have people on both sides fighting about free speech, and and I've said before with the Kimmel thing, that wasn't about free speech. That was about the FCC saying we can use regulations to make you tone it down. We don't want to do that, but we could use regulations to do that. So you might want to look and do it before we have to come in there, before we knock on your front door. And people, oh, that's the FCC, twisting their arm. No, that's the FCC warning them that if you don't follow the regulations, and ABC knows what the regulations are. And when ABC went to speak to Kimmel that next day, they hadn't made a decision yet. And they asked Kimmel, what would be your reply right now if you were in front of a camera? What would be your reply to the FCC coming to this network and saying what they said? And the answer that Kimmel gave them disturbed the standards and practices people and the lawyers. And they said, no, this is what we would like you to say. And Kimmel, I'm not saying that. I have free run of my show. I feel I'm inside the regulations of the FCC. I'm not saying anything that was wrong or was a lie, or was in my view insightful. That I was going to incite people to do violence. No. And the heads of ABC, thank you, and we're going to pull you off the show for, I don't know. We don't know. But you're not fired. We just need time for us to digest everything that's going on here. And we don't want to make matters worse for you, and of course worse for us, which makes it then worse for our shareholders and our other subsidiaries of the ABC family. So, and I think that Kimmel recognized that. I think Kimmel, he didn't run out there and make statements. Others did for him. And he might have spoken to people, but he said, I can't. I gave a promise to my bosses that, I would make no public statement on this, but you're not the public. I'm talking to my friend Jon Stewart here. I'm talking to Colbert. I'm talking to these people. So, that's just me talking to you. And he did that. And I don't watch Kimmel. I don't think I've ever watched any of his shows ever. But I did listen to what he had said, and it was, a 1.5 minute little snippet or whatever he said. And it was sincere. And all right, it wasn't he wasn't on his, knees begging for forgiveness, and no one was asking him to do that. And he gave what he thought, and, because it was never his intent. That was not what he was trying to do. What he was trying to do was just point out stuff that was already being pointed out. So, I think, though, that Kimmel can't help himself in wanting to be relevant, and will do something and say something that will get him in trouble, and ABC will then be able to go, hey, we begged you, we warned you. We can't have it. We can't have this. And I don't know if the other stations, Nexstar and Sinclair, are they strong enough to lose this money coming in from that show? That's what will control the day. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. And, my problem is that all these late show, they just kick people around. And it's not clever kicking, it's really mean kicking. And I think people are losing their, okay, that's, you can't go to that well all the time. You got to get something else going here. You got to think of some good jokes. You got to gags and routines, and not just Trump, 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 Trump. You just can't do it. Because the minute it starts going to Vance, you guys are going to have a problem. And not a violent problem. I'm not saying violent problem. You're going to have money problems, because people are going to go, I'm tired of watching this. All you're doing is erasing Trump's name and writing Vance in, and then he's the next Hitler or Goebbels or whoever you want to put in there. You can't make these rhetoric remarks, Democrats, and not think there's not going to be some type of reaction from someone. That you just can't do it. You can't do that for 15 years and then not, just keep putting this agenda out there and not think that it's going to not have legs and take off. So, I think your brand is so damaged. Bill Maher is correct. A lot of these people are correct that you have to rebrand yourself, and the only way to rebrand yourself is wipe and clean. And, will you do it? I think Pelosi will just die off. I think Warren will just die off. Bernie will die off. You got to get rid of an AOC. New York has to get the stones to go, thank you, but no thank you. You haven't done anything for us. Our streets are worse in New York. So I think, you know, it will be interesting to see what the commercials will be like in the 2026 campaign. The money coming in for the Republicans is tremendous. Tremendous. And the Democrats are choking. They're trying to get money together. They're trying to go to donors. When donors are going, hey, no, not this trip, fellas. I know I gave, $1 million last time you came crying to me, but I'll give you $5,000 here. So they're going to be hurting in a lot of places. In a lot of places, they're going to be hurting. And money-wise, you need money. And they're not going to get it. They're not going to get it. And Republicans that I thought could be in trouble this term, not happening. They'll be there again. Safe Democrats, not so sure. Not so sure how safe you are, guys, politically. Like I said, you do your fighting from rooftops. We do our fighting in the voters' booth. So we'll wait you. Coming close to 12 months. And we're going to take you on hard. And even I'm going to run some funny little parodies on Democrats. And like I said, I'm not thrilled in my state with my 2 Republicans. And they've been real quiet lately. And one of them's peeked his head up. But who else have we got? Tim Scott's all right. I like our Congressman Fry. I think he's doing doing what he can do. Not a miracle worker, and I don't expect miracles. What I do expect is, you worked hard. So, all right, with that, I'm going to say later, as always, give to a charity if you can, give to a food bank, say a prayer. If you have not joined my page yet, please join. I'm asking for subscribers. We're subscribers, and I don't get monetized, so this isn't about getting money or anything like that. I wish. By having more viewers and more subscribers, opens different levels of platforms for you that I can then go out and do. So that's what I'm looking for to do. I want everyone to have a good day. I'm going to get this out here pronto. There's just going to be my opening thing, and then after that, just please subscribe and like and subscribe to my page. And we're going to go from there. So everyone, be safe, be well, and I'm going to fade to black.